Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That's
We just
right.
got back from the movie, and Brandon, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Amazing Spider-Man 2 basically picks off where the Amazing Spider-Man 1 left off. Follows the story of Peter Parker and his journey through Spiderdom with his fabulous sidekick, if you will, Gwen Stacy. And it follows the exploits of them in the Big Apple and fighting villains, as you expect Spider-Man to do.
Is that all you're going to say about it? Nothing about, like, lineage or...
Oh,
like...
indeed. It starts out with a reprise of the story behind how Spider-Man got left with his aunt and uncle in the first place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of continues from there. This story is a big story about
building
lineage.
that mystery.
Mm-hmm, the mystery behind it. And through the process of the movie, he also learns a bit more about his parents. And we get to see a little bit more about his parents as well.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, how'd you feel about Amazing Spider-Man 2, sir?
I felt as though they grabbed this franchise by the horns and let it run through the streets, but in a good way.
Oh, wow, I like that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this story had a lot going for it. It really came out and kind of stated what it wanted to do, and we got to see it kind of happen through the whole thing. I enjoyed the storyline in this, where Peter was coming from, where he's going, where he's coming from, where he was, and where he's going in the next film. It really lends itself to being a middle part of this franchise, I thought. The characters were well-rounded. For the most part, I thought they were very well-rounded.
We'll talk about that.
I'm sure we will. There was we got to see Harry Osborn in this movie, and I really did enjoy his performance as Harry Osborn. I thought kind of the villain there was a little bit... Maybe that villain wasn't quite as rounded as I'd hoped. But it was actually fairly good for me. One of the things that I didn't like about this movie...
Yeah.
I wasn't as emotionally connected in a specific spot that I really thought I should be.
Okay, all right.
And I wanted to be more emotionally connected.
Can you be any more specific than that?
It was very, very sad for me to see what happened with Gwen.
Okay, yeah.
And I wanted to be more invested in that than I actually was.
Interesting, all right.
But I did enjoy it for what it was. So.
All right, flip your side.
I'm feeling it. This was actually a pretty good experience for me.
All right. Brandon.
Yes, Cap.
I'm just gonna start off my whole thing by saying, this movie.
Yes, indeed.
This movie.
We'll get into this.
It's so weird. Okay, all right. So this is my board, Brandon.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna change a word on here. I'm gonna change a word on here, and you'll be able to tell what word I changed because it's gonna be with a red pen. But I'm gonna change. Hang on.
Indeed.
Okay, because I have to make this more Spider-Man-y.
All right.
So I've changed a word on my board.
Well, we'll definitely get more in depth in this, but I wanted to keep. I was going for the whole like
that's just fine. Can I do my sign?
Absolutely.
Please? Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not saying that you had too much brevity. I'm just saying that. No, I'm not saying. All I'm saying is I want to start off my part of this review by letting everybody know how completely incoherent I feel like being right now by just going. This movie, okay.
Well, that was it. Yeah, that's great.
Here's my this movie. Flip my sign. I'm done. Okay, no. Here's my board. Are you ready? Here we go. My board does not say this movie. Here it is. This movie made me feel like I was spinning wildly inside a bizarre, cacophonous web of fun, awesome, wiggy, head-scratching, thrilling, little stereotypical, and wonderful. All at the same time, Brandon. This movie made me feel all those different things. That's in various places.
I like that.
Buddy,
Wigging.
Yeah, wiggy.
Wiggy.
So, my favorite thing about this movie, this is just like a really broad thing, is that it was really fun. I had a really fun time with a lot of this movie.
Yes.
But I feel like it's one of those things, just like a lot of superheroes, and like perhaps Peter Parker himself in certain ways, that the movie's the thing that it's got most going for it, its greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. And that is, it's just so freaking crazy. It's bombastic.
It starts out crazy.
So the thing is, it is so incredibly over the top. And I really enjoyed that about it, but the problem is, I thought that it was totally at odds with itself in quite a few places.
Really?
Yeah, I did, and I don't know if I would feel that way on a second viewing, but this is just my gut reaction, so if I'm wrong tomorrow, okay, but it's just how I feel about it right now. Like I said, we just got back from this, and I'm trying to get my thoughts together. So like, when it wants to take its time to have like some real emotional, weighty, heavy things happen and be like, this franchise, I feel like, wants to be a lot more serious than the last franchise. I feel like it wants to be more character-driven. It wants to be more focused. It wants to be more of a film. It wants to be more of a franchise about family, and it wants to do this kind of father-son sort of thing, and it wants to play with those ideas. And it's playing with a lot of the same ideas from before, certainly. Of course, you have to have the thing about responsibility. One of the themes I really, really liked in this movie that the first film has to a degree, but it really runs within this one, is the idea of how it's more important how we live our lives than how long we live our lives. Indeed. And what do you do with the time that you have? And so you don't want to become so desperate to survive. You know, there's a lot of like animal instinct survival stuff going on, and so you you don't want to, like, that's the motif they run with the spider thing, with the lizard thing, and then here with other things that aren't really animals but still have the same thing.
Stacy, they ran with that pretty big.
Well, she kind of sets up that whole motif, and actually even like the message. Yeah. You know, at the beginning of the movie for us, and kind of gives us that. So I'm just saying that, like, I like that motif and the theme and the way it runs with it, but like, it wants to be a more kind of grounded thing, at least emotionally and thematically, that I think the last franchise was, but it is crazier than that now. And I can't believe, like, there is stuff about 15 times more nutso in this movie than in Spider-Man 3, and I feel like it's a far more cohesive piece than that. A lot of people are comparing the two. Maybe it has too many characters, maybe it has too many plot threads, maybe it's too kind of all over the place, maybe it gets too over the top in some places.
For a second, I thought that they had too many characters, but then I kind of realized what they were doing, and it worked for me.
But like I said, I just feel like in some places it's kind of a little bit totally at odds with itself. We'll go ahead and get into some stuff. I'm gonna say certainly I had a really good time with this movie. But on the whole, it's fun too. It's gonna take another viewing before I can decide, like, just how much I love this film, or if I continue to be perplexed by it.
Well, let's go right now.
I'm really looking forward to sitting down and watching this again. It's just a weird movie. That's how I feel about it.
Well, it starts out with one of the people who ends up being one of the villains here. It starts out with this crazy scene of this guy in this semi being chased by cops.
And it's so, it's off the rail.
It's off the rail. It's preposterous.
Factor 11. It's preposterous. Yeah, and the thing is, there's nothing like that in the first movie. I guess the reason, and I'm sure some people are going to be like, oh, but Captain Logan, you had a villain in the first movie that wanted to turn the whole city into lizards. And I guess because we have a turn everybody into lizards plot in the first movie, now anything goes. We can go as big and nutso as we want to. And yeah,
this was Blues Brothers.
But what it felt, opening it up that way, they set the tone for that, which is good. They needed to do that. I'm like, okay, they've opened up the floodgates to what the heck, with the opening of that. They are in that opening scene. They have got to be setting the Guinness World Record for most police cars parked in a single sequence, because and then they're flying everywhere like marshmallows, and then it just
and he's
keeps,
catching them, and
yeah, and it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. Brandon, there were a lot of places. I guess the reason I keep saying that it's kind of totally at odds with itself, and I'm not sure how I feel about if it's earning the drama. Like, there are places where I feel like it's kind of a silly film where the silliness gets broken up by the drama. In places I sort of feel that way.
And I can see what you're saying.
And I'm not saying that the main characters, that like Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy don't get super out of character or anything like that. I feel like they where they go, where their character arcs take them in the film works okay. It all makes sense, and I think that at the end of the day, all of the thematic ideas come together, maybe a little bit too easily. That was a thing I felt about with the first movie. This one maybe not as much, but like there's a lot of comedy that doesn't play for me. There's a lot of comedy that really plays. That's hilarious, and then there's a lot of other things where it feels like they're just throwing stuff on the wall and trying to see what sticks.
That actually speaks to kind of what I was saying, how I didn't feel quite as vested in the scene with Gwen that I thought that I should have, because it was surrounded by some other stuff that wasn't quite as heavy, may have even been lighter, and then it you're right. There was a lot of that.
And what you're talking about felt a little bit of obligatory, and I mean, like, it's fine that it's there, and it works okay. It's just I wasn't hit. I wasn't hit by it the way I wanted to be.
Right, exactly.
But also, one of the biggest problems with this movie, and it's impossible for this not to affect your expectations and your your perceptions, is that I just knew too much about this movie. I didn't want to, but like I felt like I'd seen this movie before I went in, and very little surprised me. Well, very little plot-wise surprised me. What did surprise me was how freaking over the top it was.
That surprised me too, because I didn't get that sense from anything, really.
The biggest crime with the trailers is that the ending is in the trailer, and I've never seen that, I don't think, where
we didn't know that was the ending, though, is the thing.
It ruins it, though. It ruins the coolness factor of it.
It does take it away from it.
Like if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, I guess this is a minor spoiler, but like the movie ends in a big climactic action scene. The thing is in the trailer. The image you are left with at the end of the film is in all the trailers, or in a lot of them, and that's
weird.
It's not just it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Okay,
we can't be doing that because it ruins it to a degree. You know what I mean? Let me say that the ending is fabulous. Whatever else I might feel about the movie, like the spirit of optimism and hopefulness at the ending, and what's really funny is. The way they end things, I'm going to have to put minor spoilers in the title, is the way they end things, most people have seen it by now, I'm sure, with Gwen and stuff at the end, weirdly did not emotionally resonate with me the way the final scene did. And, like there's this thing that's done in the last scene, that setting up a big fight, and, like, I loved it. That really resonated with me. I thought that was fantastic.
Well, it worked. Yeah. Whereas the thing with Gwen didn't quite work.
No, I'm not even saying it didn't work. I'm just saying that it didn't resonate because I kind of saw it coming, and you know what I mean. So, well, anyway, what else should we talk about?
There was a particular joke that ran through this that I thought was kind of funny regarding the megaphone. That kind of cracked me up. That was kind of, it was sort of a recurring joke. The megaphone makes an appearance a few different times, and that one worked for me.
It occurred to me it kept showing up until you just said that. Yeah, it does.
Did.
Yeah, that is kind of fun.
The main villain in this, Electro, excuse me. Wow.
Excuse him.
Oh.
Excuse. He's not a comic book reader. He doesn't really know much about.
But I got it from the movie Electro. I found it really interesting how he could dissipate into the grid and then kind of rematerialize.
And that is, there's precedent for that. We've seen that.
That was actually really cool. The special effects in this were not so over the top as to be. For me, they weren't totally unbelievable.
It went kind of spectacular Spider-Man. Well, and the thing about it is, they obviously, again, from the way they set the movie up tonally from the very beginning, they're kind of trying to make you be able to accept anything in this like anything. Seriously, like if freaking giant plates of yogurt showed up and started shooting people with ray guns,
I'd be okay with that.
I would not be that surprised in this movie.
Yes.
Like anything is possible here, and maybe that's a little bit refreshing in a way with all of the like attempts at really grounded superhero stuff we've had lately. That Spider-Man's just going, you know what? We're just gonna do Spider-Man. We're gonna go off the rails. We're gonna have our really crazy psychotic characters do really crazy things. But you were talking about special effects, dude. That whole third act with the way they did the way they did all the action, and especially the stuff with Electro, was just freaking fantastic.
It was. I will say this though. I mentioned that I felt that the characters were somewhat rounded. I wouldn't say that's for. As we talked earlier, as for two-dimensional characters, they weren't well-rounded three-dimensional characters.
The difficulty is, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I there was something I had a big problem with, and it was how quickly Electro turned on Spider-Man, and how quickly Harry Osborn turned off of just like one thing they did. Yeah. One thing for Electro, he turned. Well, one thing for Harry Osborn, he turned.
Do you not feel like, and I know you haven't kept up with this stuff and followed it the way I have, but do you not feel like there's a little bit of, we've been here and done this and everybody knows the formulas, so we just kind of jump into stuff and we give kind of quick motivations for villains to do things, and then that's just there to get the ball rolling, and so like it's a little bit awkward. It's like okay, audience, it's believable because we've told you what the villain's reason for doing things is. Never mind actually letting us get to know them real well and making them feel like people making decisions. It's just, okay, we know we need a motivation. Here's the motivation. Here's what they're doing. But I don't think it was
enough of a motivation.
But that's precisely the point I'm making. I feel like with Electro, they made a smart move in making him already pretty messed up in the head to begin with. You see what I'm saying? This guy is kind of delusional, and he's the sort of character, like, he's so out of touch with reality, and he has this, like, skewed view of the world, and he's so insecure, and I think the movie is making a point about that sort of thing, and about insecurity. I think what it's doing is it's saying that, this person can go this nuts and turn that fast on Spider-Man because, after all, he, at the beginning, and the thing is with this franchise, as soon as you get superpowers, it augments whatever you want by 6 billion.
Exactly.
And that's the big formula with these now, it turns out.
And it makes you even crazier.
Yeah, and so what they did with him is they said, okay, he is so insecure that if you give him an inch, he takes a mile. He reminds me a lot of Jim Carrey's The Cable Guy. He's actually a cross between it's also electricity. He's kind of a cross between Jim Carrey's Cable Guy and Jim Carrey pre-Riddler. Like, put those together and you kind of have this character.
Well, let me say this. Like, he was demented, but he has a line in the movie where he says, "All this rage." I didn't get the opinion that he was really rage crazy in the beginning. I got the impression that he was just delusional crazy.
Yeah.
Where did the rage come from?
It came from the electricity. Like I said, it augments whatever it is that he... And that's the thing we got to keep in mind with these villains, is that once they get their superpowers, they are immediately less interesting. And that's what I'm not digging about the way we're doing villains in this universe, is they have reasons for being disgruntled or being sad or feeling like the world is against them, or especially people, we have this with Lizard, we have this with characters in this, people who feel like they've got to, they're in like really bad shape and they have to do something right now to fix everything. So what we have with Electro is he is so obsessed with Spider-Man, and like again, you give him an inch and he takes a mile. So he's like
amplified.
So what he does is he's so obsessed with Spider-Man, decides that he's his best friend and everything, that that when and like it's a little creepy the way he's pretending like Spider-Man's around him all the time and stuff, right? That when oh, the word I was looking for a minute ago was desperation. These characters are desperate, so what he does is he gets the electricity stuff and he becomes a supervillain, and then it's he gets one little notion that maybe Spider-Man isn't really what he thought he was, and he blows up because he's got nothing to lose and he's totally out of his mind now. But like I said, he's less interesting than he could have been before, because once they get their powers, and I'm talking everybody that gets powers in this universe with the exception of Spider-Man, and we sort of get an explanation for why that is in this movie, which is kind of interesting that they go there. That
never paid off.
No, I think it did just fine. What do you mean it didn't pay off?
Well, no, I'm making a mistake here. I was thinking about something else. Go ahead with what you were saying.
But yeah, there's kind of a genetic explanation as to why Spider-Man can have powers and not be a psychopath, and these other characters become psychopaths. What I'm saying is they are no longer themselves. You know, you get to the end of the first movie, and the Lizard, once he becomes unlizardified, he is immediately, oh my God, what have I done? And that's a formula now. We're doing it with every character now, and you could make the case that they're not really doing that with Green Goblin, but that's because the gunk is still in him. So you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think that's becoming a little bit too formulaic. Also, we've got a lot of standard superhero stuff in this that I really thought was, and I was really kind of hoping this franchise would avoid. We've got the standard supervillain team up. I thought that could be a lot less interesting. And my biggest complaint with Harry Osborn is I thought he was really sympathetic in getting the raw end of the deal and everything, and then by the time you get to the third act, I just don't care anymore.
I didn't really care either, because the turning point was when he turned on Spider-Man so quickly. It was, from what I've seen, one of the pettiest turns.
No, I don't agree with that. I kind of bought him turning against him in the first place. I didn't buy that he was still like that by the end. And I mean, we would have to get into it, and we shouldn't here. But I'm just saying that early on, that you got basically it's responsibility versus desperation. It's Spider-Man won't help him because if he gives him what he wants, he doesn't know what'll happen. And Harry Osborn says, "Well, I'm desperate and you should help me because that's what you do, Spider-Man. You're supposed to help people."
The problem I had there was that Spider-Man has, that Peter, he has a sense for this type of thing. He should be able to explain adequately, well, we should look into this first. He doesn't give Harry the explanation I think Spider-Man should have given him.
I agree with you.
We should look into this first. Like, I can help you, but let's kind of take it step by step rather than just me give you what you want. And Harry is under some sort of impression he doesn't have very long, or it's trying to make us think that he doesn't have very long. And his father, the explanation that we give him, we do see his father in this movie. He's lived to be somewhat past middle age.
Yeah, I don't understand what the ticking time clock is.
There wasn't really. They set it up for there is no ticking time clock, because the dad says, well, it started at the same time that mine started.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to think he doesn't have every bit as much, somewhat the same amount of time, like 40 years.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes a movie that is a little tough to take seriously in places, because it has some of the same like a plot contrivances that the first movie does. There are, and maybe not as much, or maybe as much, honestly. I mean there's a lot of just plot convenience to get the story moving. And again, like I said, a little bit of, we've been here, done this before. We don't really need to make it adequately character driven enough for everything to seem organic, because after all, it's a superhero movie and we don't really have to do that. And I'm like, well, I just wish you could be slightly more sophisticated. I'm not asking for genius. I'm not asking for Shakespeare. I would just like to not be distracted all the time by, okay, you guys were a little sloppy in how you had A lead to B lead to C in a movie that's about actions and consequences. That's all I'm saying.
More sophistication over spoon feeding or sloppy storytelling. that type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe the problem is sloppy storytelling before it's spoon feeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Like I said, I really enjoyed the film.
It's a good film. You can get kind of lost in it. I felt.
Yeah. I got engrossed in a lot of places. I also want to say that this is, again, I'm very perplexed by this movie.
A conundrum.
The first movie I absolutely, I don't want to say despised, but I really didn't like the score in that movie at all. It was really generic, and I felt like there were several places where what I was hearing in the background was not fitting with what I was watching on screen. This movie, they went with a different composer, and it's primarily Hans Zimmer, and it doesn't sound like Hans Zimmer. And I mean, I'm glad that he's not just writing Batman for Spider-Man. That's good, but
Batman for Spider-Man.
But yeah. Well, I'm glad that we don't have Spider-Man swinging through the city, and we hear dun 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 dun. But the thing is, and then like it goes with his weapons.
That's great. Although we did have something similar to that, but it worked in that scene in the electrical power grid station.
Well, it wasn't like that score at all, but yes, but I'm getting to that.
Right.
Here's the thing: in this movie, I felt like the score had a lot of the same problem, which is bizarre because it was a totally different. Yeah. I kind of wish these Spider-Man movies could sort of have a theme. I don't mean that it has to be super hummable. I don't mean that it has to be ultra melodic. I just wish that, like, I don't know, Electro has his own sort of theme, which again in places feels really strange where it's placed. But I think they're going for a pseudo, like it's a quirky sort of theme, but then it makes the sometimes when we get it makes the scene seem a little bit more unsettling that it's there, and that's kind of interesting. But like Spider-Man, as far as I can tell, just doesn't really have one, or if it's there, it's so generic I don't care.
That's really interesting because I could hum you the theme from the first set of Spider-Man really easily.
That's Danny Elfman.
Yeah, but I mean...
Which is ironic because Danny Elfman also Batman, then Spider-Man.
But it's a recognizable tune for me, whereas this one, you're right, didn't have one.
Well, and
you're spot on.
And I don't think that it played off of anything from the... I just watched the first movie. I don't think it really played off of anything from that.
Right.
It doesn't have to. I'm just saying that, like, it was as generic, I thought. But this is where it's weird to me. Wasn't real keen on the music, but the sound design was brilliant. And I never talk about sound design, but, like... Some of the choices for sound effects and things in this were really fascinating, and I was really digging the demented headspace thing with Electro.
Yeah.
There are several places where and there's a lot of getting into characters' heads with sound and visual things that I thought were very effective. And with that, he's almost got like this this creepy, demented poem going through his head about how much he really despises Spider-Man now, and I really liked that.
Yeah. And you can hear his thoughts in places as well.
Yeah, but there's a rhythm to it.
There is,
and definitely. I thought that was really neat. I've really not seen that before. That was new.
Well, you said you were going to mention the thing that I brought up about the power plant.
Right.
What did you want to say about that specifically?
Just that's part of the sound design that I really liked.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what they were going for, but every time they would run into one of these pillars in the thing, you'd have a different tone. And that it was haunting, really.
It was, and they do it for a little while, and I don't think that it really has any kind of
no major significance,
allegorical or metaphorical or thematic significant. But it was cool. I'm not real sure what it's doing, and I feel like that with a lot of stuff with this movie, where I'm just like, that was cool. Well, everybody, that's it for our review right now. We're gonna do a spoiler podcast for you later in the week, where hopefully I will have seen it one more time and be a lot more coherent than I was in this review. Brandon, thanks a whole bunch for being with me. Sure appreciate it as always, and we will see you again later on. I'm Captain Logan,
and I'm Brandon.
See ya.